Hey, mamas, welcome to Between Us Moms. We know you can be anywhere else, so we gotta say we are so glad you're here to spend 30 minutes with us. And on that note, let's dive right in. Katie, hit us with your Cliff Notes.
All right. So I have briefly discussed Kaya's teething on the podcast previously, but now I feel like this is a call for help or tips because her first bottom two teeth came in a couple months ago. Her top two teeth are now like poking through, so I think we're through the worst of that pain, but she is now wanting to bite everything. For example, on Wednesdays, we like to go out to dinner because Jason works from home. So we go to this little spot. It's like half a mile away. They know us there. They're very nice to Kaya. They bring us like plain noodles for her. Um, we put her in her high chair and she tries to eat the edge of the table.
Mm.
She doesn't understand the word no. And like when we try to like kindly like remove her mouth from the table, she just goes right back to it. And so it's icky, it's disgusting.
Isn't the irony, though, that we spend the first few months of their life sterilizing the shit out of
I
everything
know.
just for them to literally lick a public table or to put their foot in their mouth? I'm like,
Like,
at
why?
some point, you're just like, who cares?
I
Like,
know. It's
you can't stop
wild.
them.
It's
Yeah.
weird. Also, so now I have learned, like, we bring our little wipes in and I do wipe down the table, but I still feel like that's icky, like the underneath of the I don't know. I just think it's so gross and I don't know why she's doing that.
Kids are gross.
Like, did Dylan do that? Is this a
So
new
she teethed, but she wasn't putting her mouth on like
public things?
not I don't think so. I don't recall that.
It's I mean, it's around our house too, because now we let her kind of like crawl everywhere. She loves to crawl. And she'll even go up to her little jumperoo, the little like floor pulls, and she tries to bite that. My light that's lighting me right now, she's tried to bite the base of that. Drawer handles, same
Oh,
thing. And then if we're like kind of cleaning off her mouth, like if she has like drool or some food on her mouth and she tries to bite our fingers, and I'm like, are we gonna have a biter on our hands?
no. You know what? I'm sure you're doing this, but so this is probably going to sound like stupid advice, but are you just constantly throwing in her hand actual teethers?
So we have those cold teethers, but then I read that it's not good to give them the super like cold ones. So then we have these little, I don't know, I have a little rainbow shaped one. I have a little rattle one, but then the dog stole it and chewed it up. So that's a whole other
There's a
issue
theme
that
going on
works.
in the
Yeah,
Mork household.
Finley, that's maybe for next week is like what to do when you have a baby and a pet and your pet is jealous and wants all of her toys. Um, it's just chaos here.
Yeah.
But so here's the thing with the cold teethers. She likes them at first and she like gnaws at them and then she throws them and then she gets upset because she's thrown it. And so it's a big game of like picking up the teether throughout the day, giving it back to her. And by that time, it's like totally melted and it defeats the purpose of a teether. So it's just a sick cycle carousel that we are having right now. It's just
Um,
the public table is really the hardest part for me.
Yeah. My brother-in-law is a massive germaphobe.
Ooh.
So parenthood has been a real journey for him.
Mhm.
Like, I'm honestly a little surprised he still has skin on his hands because he is the king of washing hands. Like, and maybe I'm just not a germaphobe, that this to me seems like a lot, but he will, in his own home, he uses paper towels in the bathroom to dry his hands because to him, a hand towel is filthy and disgusting. So you can
Honestly,
imagine how he
same.
feels.
Yeah.
Really? In your own home?
Yeah, we have hand towels. I'm actually looking right now and I'm trying to remember the last time I dried my hands with one of the hand towels like hanging below our
Interesting.
sink because we have the paper towel. But I'm also, this is going to take a quick little tangent. I also am very meticulous about, so we get the half a size paper towels from Costco.
Mhm.
and I only believe in using a half. Jason, on the other hand, he will literally take 4 giant sleeves, and I'm like, "You're killing so many trees right now." And
So
also they're
I
expensive and also inflation, and why do we need I don't know, I try to, like, multi-use, like, if I'm drying my hands and I'm also, like, cleaning off the coffee machine with
You
said
bring up
liquid
an
alcohol.
excellent point. I think there is one in every marriage and we balance each other. I am on the Jason train. This is
Ooh.
a lot of information. If you are queasy about boogers, please tune out for a second. But I have had the gnarliest congestion in this pregnancy. And I don't know if it's because we just moved to a colder location or what, but I wake up and I am just like, I'm mouth breathing all night long because I can't breathe out of my nose.
Oh
And when
god.
I wake up, I have neon green snot and neon green boogers just jam packed all the way up to my brains. And I will ask Andrew, hey, can you bring me a tissue? And by tissue, I mean toilet paper. He will bring me one tiny square. And I'm like, in what world is that enough to evict these boogers? It's not enough.
It's not.
Bring me the roll. Bring me
Right.
the whole effing roll. So, you know what? That's love. I think you found your person. And I think that's a sign your marriage is going to last.
Yeah, it is gonna last, and that's so funny that you say, yeah, there's one in every marriage. My my last example of this, because you brought up a good point, is so we bought one of those Doppler things on Amazon.
Yeah. So you
We
could
could
hear the
listen.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after you put the ultrasound gel on, you have to wipe it off, right? So then
Hmm.
Jason will get up and same thing. I don't think we have tissues in this house. So we get toilet paper and he comes over to like wipe it off, but it's as if he's used the entire toilet paper
Yeah.
roll. And it's so funny because the other night he did it and I went to get up to pee and I noticed he thought about it and he wrapped back some of the toilet paper on the roll and was like, maybe I don't need this much of the roll to clean off a tiny bit of ultrasound gel. So all that to say, public, gnawing, and paper towel and toilet paper usage. That's what's
What a cliff
happening over
note.
here. What a cliff note. You know
Yeah.
what? It's funny because I actually had two in the thought that maybe that wasn't gonna be enough to really quench your thirst for what's going on in our life.
And here we are.
And here we are.
10 minutes later.
Yeah.
And I feel fully informed. I learned something new. I learned several things actually. So this is great. Thank
Yeah.
you for bringing that to the table.
What do you have?
Well, my cliff notes, I had something brilliant I thought of this morning and I was like, that'll be a great one. And then, of course, I didn't write it down. And so I forgot because I'm pregnant and this baby is literally eating my brain. So,
Mm,
what I have for you today is a shout out to all working mothers in general, but specifically today, I want to shout out working mothers who have to travel.
mm,
Even more niche, working mothers who have to travel who are also pregnant. So basically, I'm shouting out myself
yes.
because I have been traveling back to LA every other week for work. It is a blessing to be able to do it. I am so grateful because when we moved here, I was really sad about saying goodbye to the company I work for full time. And they were so gracious and wonderful to extend my contract and bring me in and put me on the broadcast every week. So I go out every other week, but let me tell you, it is really testing my patience and it's
Oh.
not the travel, it's the people we travel with.
Ah.
For example, yesterday, I first time since I've moved, I was in a middle seat. It was a packed flight. There was no moving. I'm in the middle seat. Very tucked in there. Two things happen immediately. The people on either side of me put their elbows on the middle armrest.
Taboo. That is like flight
Rude,
etiquette 101.
rude. Like I'm in the middle seat here. The least you could do is throw me a bone and give me those armrests. Also, I am visibly pregnant,
I was just
people.
gonna
So
say, can't they see that you're pregnant? Was it
give
men?
me one was a man, one was a woman.
Oh, wow, okay. I guess
Okay,
I
so that's
couldn't
how we
really
start.
jump to
Yes.
that conclusion.
Yes. Well, yes. Also, I would like to say none of my Uber drivers this time helped me put my suitcase in the trunk. What the F? Again, I'm visibly pregnant. There's no, oh, this girl is just had a large meal. This is like, I am pregnant. This is a pregnant belly. And I'm like, you can't get out. I am not giving you 5 stars. Absolutely not. That is so
No.
rude. So that's how it actually started. Then we had the elbow gate. Then the man sitting to my right did not wear headphones and was listening to his movie on full blast
On the little screen in front of you, can you even do that?
on his phone.
Oh,
I
on his
was
phone.
so pissed. I was like, this is, we have now entered, and I'm like getting to that point of pregnancy where I'm a little irritated by like everything.
Why didn't you say something? I
Oh, I
probably
did.
would have. Okay.
Oh, I did. I said, "Excuse me, sir, do you have headphones?" And he said, "Oh, I don't. Sorry." And I was like, "Oh, and what are we doing about it?" He did nothing about it. He continued to watch his movie. I was just like, oh, it's like people have not been in public before, have no
Oh,
manners or like social awareness. It was crazy. So, anyway, work is great, but it's the people I have to deal with on the way to work that really are pulling at my threads.
you know what's sad is nothing surprises me anymore.
I
I
know.
feel like as a society, we have lost our manners to the point where I constantly am asking my friends and even Jason, I'm like, who raised these people?
Wolves
Because who did?
in the
Yeah,
woods.
in the
Eh,
woods.
mm, I'm with you. I was, and there have been so many weird things that have happened in the course of me traveling back and forth. And I'm gearing up for it, like up until, so next month, I go every single week to LA because we're banking episodes and,
Because you're
filming in
about to give birth.
advance. Yeah, because I'm about to enter that no-fly zone of like a month out from my due date. So they've been awesome working with me on my schedule, but I'm like, can I deal with people every week at the airport? Like I'm gonna need, you know,
I know.
just some kind of coping mechanism. So anyway,
I'm
I
sorry.
you generally love people. Today I hate people. So that's where I'm at mentally. But that's my cliff notes.
Hmm, that's a good one. Everything
Yep.
does feel amplified when you're pregnant, but
Oh,
I think I would feel that way regardless of a pregnancy.
growing life in this body.
I know, you're growing a liver. Jason's
Yeah.
so tired of me telling that joke.
Oh, I literally say to Andrew every single day, I'm like, oh, you're tired? Funny, because today I grew fingers, toes, a brain, eyes. So
Yeah,
whatever you got going on, it's not as exhausting, but I know.
a couple more
Two
months,
months,
weeks,
two
really.
month countdown.
Oh my gosh, what an exciting time for you
I
guys.
I
Eek.
know.
Okay, well, from rude people to the T.
What a
Not
transition.
not even a smooth transition.
I loved it anyway.
Well, here we are. Okay. Ava Mendez is talking about why she stopped acting to raise her kids with Ryan Gosling. This is from a new interview with the Today Show. I'm going to read you guys some quotes. She basically said, it was like a no brainer. And I was like, I'm so lucky if I could have this time with my children. Her children are, of course, their two daughters, Esmeralda and Amada. One is 9 and one is 7. She went on to say it was almost like a nonverbal agreement that it was like, okay, he's going to work and I'm going to work. I'm just going to work here. He went and he did his job. He just happens to be really good at this job. And he did it and he came home. She notes that she still works, but prefers not to act because it takes you on location and it takes you away from the family. What are your thoughts?
Well, we've talked about this before on the
Mm,
podcast. They're a
yeah,
very private couple, and they only really
super.
ever give us very small glimpses into their relationship. So this was kind of like a lot for her to share. But I love that she still considered and said, he's working, but so am I. I'm just
Mhm,
working at home because raising children is the hardest job.
mhm.
Honestly, when I go to work, I'm like, this is a vacation because being at home with a baby is exhausting, it's demanding, it's, taxing, it's wonderful and it's a privilege, but it's also exhausting. It
Yeah.
is a job. So I like that she referred to it that way. And it kind of reminds me of the Lily Allen thing we talked about maybe last week, where, these people are really privileged that they have the option to stay home and raise their children. But what a beautiful thing to do. I can't think of anything. If that's on your heart and that is what you want to do, I cannot think of a more wonderful gift to give your family than to
Right.
raise your own children, you
Right.
know? So I love it because she's talented in her own right,
Right.
you know?
She's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So to step away, like, I just think it's brave for any woman to step away from the workforce because you run the risk of not being able to re-enter or for it being very, very challenging. But I love it. I love seeing women who are able to, who want to, doing it and loving it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because a few years ago, I interviewed Ava Mendes and she told me that acting is something that she would always love. And then I went back to like find this nugget because I was like, what else did she say about acting when I talked to her after I saw this interview? And she told me she wanted to play a Disney villain so that it would be
Ooh,
a movie that her kids could watch. So I'm still waiting for that to happen if she chooses for that to still be something that she even wants
I
to
love that.
do. But I'm with you. I really liked that she referred to it as like, I'm working from the home because I think in relationships, you can contribute in different ways. Like you can contribute financially, or you can contribute in being the one that's like with your child 90% of the time. Um, and that's just a different contribution. Like you're also thinking probably about like feeding that child 3 to 5 times a day. You're thinking about like meals for your family a lot of the time. You're taking care of like life things and emails and talking, you're running the household essentially. So I do think you can people contribute in different ways. Um and I'm also glad because she did have such a successful career that she doesn't resent him for going
Right.
on. I feel like when I watched this interview, she then also went on to like praise him and how talented he was. And I think a lot of times when one person gives up a career, so to say, to stay home, there's often like that resentment, or the person that's like out working resents the person at home because they don't see what's going on at home. So I think you have to have that mutual respect and understanding. And I think she shed a really nice light on that.
Yeah. And I think it's funny you bring that up because we did talk on the podcast about when Ryan was at the Oscars and he did his whole epic Ken performance. And she tweeted, like, you slayed. Okay, now come home and let's put the babies to bed. Like, it does feel like they have this really nice balance, a great line of communication. Obviously, we're not in their day to day lives. So this is all an assumption, but
Yeah,
whatever they're doing, it seems to work. And we love to see it.
totally. What do you have for us?
So, we got to talk about Rebel Wilson because she has a memoir that's coming out in early April, April 2nd. And in a sneak peek at the book, she reveals that she lost her virginity at drum roll, please, 35 years old.
Wow.
35. She says that not everybody has to lose their virginity as a teenager. And in an excerpt published by People, she says people can wait till they're ready or wait till they're a bit more mature. And I think that could be a positive message. You obviously don't have to wait until you're in your 30s like me, but you shouldn't feel pressure as a young person. She's now engaged to designer Ramona Agruma. I hope I said that right.
Good
And
job.
she welcomed her first child, Royce Lillian, via surrogate in November 2022. So, Katie, I want to know, what do you think is a good indicator that you're ready to have sex?
So I think, and I'm thinking about myself in this situation, I think a lot of people lose their virginity too soon because there's that pressure, especially in high school. And I feel like there's movies about it, right? Like losing your virginity on prom night. And I
Before you
think
go to
a lot of
college?
before you go to college. And so I think a lot of people feel like they are supposed to do that as almost like a rite of passage and as a way or like a means of like growing up and proving that you're ready for adulthood or ready for college. But I actually think a lot of people don't understand like the emotional repercussions that can come from that and how that might like affect your relationships from like for years to come.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, I think you should wait until you're really, really in love with somebody so that you can look back like fondly at that time. And, hopefully maybe like you end up with that person. Not to
Right.
spill my mom's tea, but my mom lost her virginity to my dad.
I lost my
And
virginity to Andrew
okay, I was gonna bring that up
at
because I didn't
21
wanna
years old. Well, I was going to
I didn't
ask
wanna
you
speak that
how.
up.
No, I was 21. I lost my virginity to Andrew. Obviously, we're married. So, how special is that?
Totally.
But how old were you? And do you mind divulging your deets? And
No.
would you do it differently if you could?
So my story's a little like, yes, if I could, I wish that Jason was the only person that I have ever been with. I think that that would be so special. Didn't meet until I was, in my 30s, and he was like in his late 30s, and he had also previously been married. But I lost my virginity when I was 16 in high school to my high school sweetheart. So I was in what I thought was love. And I feel like I've talked about this poor guy before where I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't end
This poor guy who shall remain
where I
nameless.
know, right? God. Um, so I'm so glad I did not end up with that person. But I will say I was as much in love as you can be at that age. But I also think being in such a, like, deep relationship at that age took a big toll on me. Like, I didn't have a super, super serious relationship after that for a while, and so I
Yeah.
wonder if that played a part in that.
What advice will you give to Kaya?
Gosh, that's I was thinking about that this whole entire conversation. I think I really wanna be as open about this topic as possible with her so that she feels like she can come to me, and I'm really just gonna reiterate that I really want her to be in love when it happens for the first time. Like, I want that. I think about so many of my close friends that, like, it wasn't the case for them. Like, they did lose it on, like, prom night and haven't talked to the person, since then. And I'm like, God, that would be such an awful, terrible memory. Like, your first memory of that should be something special.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Or what would you say?
I think my mom set the best example because my parents were just so open with us about everything. So we never felt like we had to rebel. We
Mm,
always had an adult in our corner who
mm,
was non judgmental, who was honest about their own experience with everything like drinking, drugs, sex, everything. So it was like, nothing was ever off the table to talk about, and I always felt really comfortable to go to my parents for advice. And I had high school I had boyfriends always, but I
mhm.
just knew in my heart I wasn't ready or that they weren't my person. And so I waited until it felt like this could be my person, or I feel emotionally prepared for this moment in my life. And I'm really grateful I waited. I mean, there was definitely weirdness in college. And like, I remember one boyfriend I dated didn't want to be my first because it got to a point where I was 20 years old and he's like, this is too much
Much
pressure, you know?
pressure. Wow.
Yeah. So not that I didn't want him to be my first either, but he was very vocal about like, I don't know, like this is too much. So I just feel like I'll try to do the same thing for Dylan and this little girl in my belly that my parents did for me and just be open. And if they say they're ready, who am I to tell them that they're not? But I'll just be there to make sure that they're safe and that their
Mhm.
heart is protected as much as I can protect it.
Totally.
Um, but yeah,
I think
it's crazy. 35.
30
Wild.
35 is wild, but you know what? Good for her. If she
Yeah.
wasn't ready until 35, people bloom and, mature and are ready for things at different ages.
Yeah.
I'm glad she was so honest about that. That's a hard thing to be honest about.
Yes. For sure. I will say my mom always said, sex is such a big part of a relationship. You want to make sure you like it. So there is something, she always said there's something to be said. She never pressured me to like only have one partner or wait till marriage because she knows it's important. And
Mhm.
so she was like, she didn't say like go have all the sex, but she was like, it's important to know what you like and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not a bad thing to have more than one partner. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So it's not just going back to you saying you wish that Jason was your only. You knew when Jason came along that it was good because you had probably some bad in the past. You know what I
I
mean?
hope he's listening to this.
Jason, you good in bed, according to Katie.
I know, I vividly remember our first time. That's for
Love it.
another podcast.
Yes.
Okay, it's time to talk OMG of the week. I do not like Governor Ron DeSantis,
Mm.
but that being said, he signed a bill recently that bans children under 14 from having social media accounts. Those who are 14 or 15 will need a parent's consent before they join a platform. The bill is called HB3, and it also directs social media companies to delete existing accounts of kids who are under 14. Companies that fail to do so could be sued on behalf of the child. And he said about this quote, Ron DeSantis said, ultimately, we're trying to help parents navigate this very difficult terrain that we now have with raising kids. And so I appreciate the work that's been in. I think it's important to say he previously banned another bill that I think was too extreme. This is slated to take effect in January 2025, but of course, the bill is expected to face legal challenges. What are your thoughts?
Great in theory. I think it's going to be hard in practice, but I love this idea of putting restrictions of kids on social media. We have talked about this before. Once a kid is on social media, it opens the floodgates for bullying, for learning about things that kids just don't have to know at that age. And I think the longer we can protect kids and their naivete and their childhood, the better. And so I'm just at least glad to see that our government or leaders are trying stuff because we can't just sit back and let it all happen. I think we talked about the petition Wait Till 8th, which is a whole, what do we call it? It's not a petition, but it's like
Like,
a agreement parents are making and
mm,
signing to make their kids wait until they're in high school to get a smartphone. I just think the more of this that we can implement, it makes it easier on the parents to say no to their kids having a phone, to say no to their kids having social media, and to give our kids their childhood back. And
yeah.
I like it.
I like it too. I mean, I said I didn't like Ron, but I actually really like this bill and the idea
Yeah.
that people are stepping up and doing something because I think one of the hardest things we face as parents, and obviously our kids are too young for this right now, but I think when you're a parent and you have your kid being like, oh, Sally and Susie and Mary all have phones. Why am I the only one that doesn't have a phone? And like you feel almost pressured, like, well, why do they all have phone? Like, am I a bad parent? And so I think
Right.
if it's an agreed upon law that no one can have like you can have a flip phone, sure. You can
Right.
call me all day long on that flip phone and you better answer when I call. But the idea of like banning the social media, that's I think where the issue is. It's like all of them on TikTok and Instagram and looking at altered doctored photos and feeling left out when they see their friends all somewhere. I think this is actually a really healthy thing that hopefully will help a lot of kids more than anything, like,
I
maintain
agree.
their childhood, so, I
Agreed.
like it. Yeah.
I like it too. And
Yeah.
from OMG to a mama we love. This week's mama we love goes to a mama in waiting, a TikTok creator in Georgia named India Betson, who went viral after she posted a video from her car after a doctor appointment where she got really, really emotional. She's proposing that patients who are dealing with pregnancy loss should have a separate waiting room at the OBGYN. She said, sitting in that waiting room next to tons of pregnant women while you wait to go back just to get blood work to see if your HCG level is back to zero sucks. Like it absolutely sucks. There's no other way to phrase it. She also went on to Good Morning America after her video went viral, revealing that she's had back to back pregnancy losses. She had a miscarriage in February, and then before that, she had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy. And she said, both times I felt that there was a way we could improve an already horrific experience by adding trauma informed care to these OBGYN offices after women learn that they've lost their baby and are going through the grieving process and being more compassionate and empathetic to these women. She just wants to protect women who have miscarriages in the future from having to experience the same thing she did. And we just want to say, India, if you are listening, We hear you, we see you, we have been there, we're loving on you, we agree, and we are so looking forward to you having your day come because it will come.
Mhm.
So, Katie, I know you and I have both had losses. What were your thoughts?
I love this. I am actually shocked that this doesn't already exist because to me it seems like a common sense, common respect practice that should be
Right.
implemented. And I was instantly drawn back to like the moment, where Jason and I found out we first lost our baby and like that moment in the waiting room and that moment in when the doctor gives you the bad news and leaves you and you feel so like alone, right? And like thank God I even had Jason there, but yeah, then to walk out and you see all these pregnant people like it sucks. And so
Yeah.
I think out of just like courtesy and healing, there should be a separation of sorts. And if it doesn't bother you, good on you if you don't mind. But if it is something, where you're like, I'm so raw in this moment, I don't want to go out and see a bunch of, happily pregnant people, pregnant women, I think we should definitely implement this immediately. And I love that Good Morning America shed a light on this and used their platform to do so.
For sure. And so brave of her to go on her platform and to be so raw and emotional because it is something that people don't really talk about. But I remember just, I mean, also just the trauma of being in the waiting room sobbing. Like I remember going into the ultrasound room and they said there's no heartbeat and then you have to go in the waiting room.
I know.
And I just was tears shedding. There's pregnant women all around me. There's no privacy. And also, maybe we can't have separate waiting rooms, but one suggestion that was made was staggering appointments. And that makes perfect sense as
I know.
well.
All appointment I feel like like, something's going on with healthcare because you either have to wait 45 minutes because there's so many appointments, like, all grouped together. They really should work on that.
Yeah. So, India, we just want to say we love you. You
Yeah.
are a mama already. And when your day comes, that baby is so, so blessed that you will be its mother. So we are rooting for you. We're here cheering you on, following you. You've got this.
We're in
You
your
know,
corner.
that's right.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We so appreciate you. Please share with a friend, tell a friend. We're here every Tuesday and Friday. We have a special guest for Friday's episode. And as we like to say, motherhood is a sisterhood, and we'll see you next time.